I'm fine. How many times have you uttered those words? Hundreds, thousands, maybe even more. And how many times were those words accurate? How many were they simply a reflex or even an outright lie? We do it so often, don't we? We say we're fine when the reality is that we're not. One of the biggest gifts I got from my divorce was my ability to no longer hide behind those words. Was my willingness to say, I'm not fine right now. I need help. I learned that admitting that you're not okay, it's not a sign of cowardice. In fact, it is a sign of strength, because that takes so much vulnerability to say, I need help, and to let people in and to let them help you. I've had to do that just recently. I had to admit that my anxiety had gotten to the point where I couldn't do it on my own anymore. And I feel no shame about that. I feel no embarrassment about that. It doesn't say anything about me as a person. It just is. I'm human, and that's okay. What I'd like for you to think about today are some of the things that you really mean when you say, I'm fine. Sometimes we say that we're fine when what we really want to say is, I'm afraid if I start talking, I'll start crying. My world is a mess right now, and I'm just trying to make it through. I may look okay, but really, I'm just going through the motions. For those that are used to being strong, I'm fine might mean I'm trying very hard to pretend that I'm okay. Please, don't intrude on my delusions. I'm not ready to face it yet, so I'm just going to keep going with the idea that I'm fine. Sometimes what we wish we could say is, I'm not fine, but I don't feel safe sharing that with you. Maybe it's somebody that you feel is going to judge you or shame you for how you feel. And so you keep it quiet. Sometimes we keep ourselves busy to avoid feeling. So in that case, the answer would be, to be honest, I don't really know how I'm doing. I haven't allowed myself to slow down enough to be aware of my thoughts. Other times we are afraid of being seen as vulnerable. I'm afraid to tell you that I'm not fine, because then you might see me as weak. Other times we don't want to bother those around us. We don't want to burden them with our emotions. So it's I'm not fine, but that's on me. Other times we're just exhausted, defeated, overwhelmed. And so it's, I'm not fine, but I just don't have the energy to explain that to you. Maybe you feel like nobody's ever respected your feelings. And so even though you're not fine, you believe that your feelings aren't valid. And so you suppress them or outright deny them. Other times we just want to be left alone. Please let me just crawl into bed and hide under the covers and wait for this all to be over. Sometimes we want to open up, but we're just not quite ready. So it's, I need time to process my emotions and to put them into words. Please be patient with me. Other times it's a feeling of not being fine, but also not wanting to be seen as helpless. And so you want somebody to listen and not try to fix things. Now, I'm not saying that the next time the cashier at the grocery store asks how you're doing, you should necessarily respond with complete transparency and honesty. But what I do ask is this: make an effort when people do ask how you're doing to respond consciously. Not out of habit, not out of reflex, but be as honest and transparent as you feel like the moment calls for. There's no reason to hide how you're feeling, whether you're fine or whether you're not. It's okay to not be okay right now. And it's also okay, in fact, admirable, to ask for help when you need it. So that one day when people ask how you're doing, you can honestly say, I'm fine.